Hello, everyone, and welcome to a discussion that is really close to my heart. It's on cloud. We've been speaking with many of you, and I know the cloud topic comes up again and again and again. And I wanted to actually bring to us a discussion I'd recently had, and actually have invited Gard Little to join us on this. Gard, welcome. And for those of
Thank
you,
you, Sanjay.
Gard is a vice president at IDC, and he leads the research on cloud. He spends time with buyers, with providers, and really thinks deeply about cloud in a way that perhaps I and perhaps many of us don't get to. And so, Gard, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm
Thanks,
going to
Sanjay.
start at a 50,000 foot, right? I mean, the cloud's been around for a few years now, and we've always thought about cloud as a backbone for delivering efficiency and economics and compute engines. But if I look at the amount of digital transformation that's happening recently, if I look at the amount of cloud adoption that's speaking up, there's more to it. What's changed?
Well, I think what's changed, Sanjay, is that cloud has become more foundational. And by that, I mean it's less visible, but it's actually more important to what's going on with businesses. And organizations are now treating it not simply as an IT upgrade or cost play. They're actually starting to transform their businesses with technology, and they're using cloud as one of the sources for innovation and creativity in what they're doing. The other thing that's changed is that we're seeing more sponsorship from CEOs for these types of cloud-related transformations. And for the first time, this has happened in the 5 years that we've been looking at this. So the CIO, the CTO in general has been the major sponsor for these types of projects. But now in 2020, we've seen that move to become the CEO. So clearly, chief information officers, CTOs are not going away, but their role is changing. I think they're becoming more of a strategic advisor or a coach to their company. So they're not just involved in the implementation project, they're doing that as well. The other thing is we're seeing more innovation in the form of custom software that's helping organizations to differentiate in addition to using the cloud services that they're procuring. What about you, Sanjay? What are you seeing?
Well, I thought that was very insightful because I'll tell you what came across and what I resonate very much in what you said. I think the second point you made, which is, look, we always talk about digital transformation, but what's really coming to be is digital transformation is actually business transformation that
Right.
happens to be enabled by digital. And that's what's new in this version and this revision of digital transformation that is starting to come through. And from industries, going from healthcare to retail to consumer goods to manufacturing, what we're starting to see is fundamentally the value proposition that we're delivering is starting to evolve, right? And digital is enabling that. And so you're right, it is a CEO initiative. It is a company initiative. It's no longer just an IT initiative. And I 100% agree and kind of see that in the work we do as well. The other thing I liked about what you said was, yes, of course, cloud's been around for a while, and it's got the economic sort of advantages of centralization and the single plane of capability, the scalability of a compute engine. All those things have been around for a while. I think what's new this year is that the pandemic has put us in a scenario where we're having to respond to bring in business capability and functionality to address the requirements of the new normal. And many of them require new IT services, new IT capability, new technology capability. And the challenge I think we have now is that as we think about time to market, we need a very innovative backplane upon which to build this new capability and bring it to market. And I feel like the cloud story has just completely intersected with a crying need from the business to build new capability and bring it out. And what the cloud is enabling us to do is to bring that time to market down to be able to bring that on there. And I think you talked about innovation and these new capabilities. We think about the word composable services, the idea of these small building blocks that are coming across from tons of innovation that are happening on the back of hyperscalers. And the job now is less about writing everything from scratch and more about assembling these building blocks that come on a cloud backplane and bringing it together. So I'll tell you my perspective on this is exactly that, which is, cloud's not an IT story anymore. It's actually a business story. It's about bringing new capability to meet the requirements in this new normal that we're living in,
Yep.
and bring that to market.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, that's very interesting, Gard. I mean, look, we're all in it, and we're kind of going forward, and many of us are embracing and using this, and yet there are bumps in the road. There are issues that we run into, and so Can you talk to us a little bit about your research and what you've found as you interacted with many, many people that have implemented this? What are some of the things that could go wrong on the cloud journey?
Well, actually, one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing is training or educating the organizations to live on the cloud. Cloud is both a delivery model and a consumption model, and we've focused for many of the last few years on the delivery side of that, rightly so, because the truth is you got to build something before you can use it. But as we actually start seeing the increased adoption of cloud services, folks are struggling with living in the cloud, and I think that what that really manifests itself as is helping them to become agile businesses. And I don't mean agile in the sense of, the IT sense of agile and DevOps and all that, but about operating in an increased tempo, being more flexible and being more ecosystemic in their thinking. This is a new muscle, for organizations, and they're struggling with that. The second thing is helping them learn to manage their consumption of cloud services and manage those ecosystem relationships that they need to be successful. Because again, it's just a relatively new experience for most organizations. So I think that maybe if I had to throw in a third one, I'd say, just dealing with the data migrations, the application migrations are complicated, but there's also just an enormous amount of data, and folks are struggling with that. People tend to think more sort of process than they do data, usually especially outside of the IT department. So, helping them understand what stays, what goes is part of the struggle. But certainly the larger piece is just getting organizations to realize that this is not an IT upgrade, or not a cost play. This is really a new way of doing business, and that's going to require change. How about you, Sanjay? Do you see that with your clients?
Well, I first off agree with what you said, which is at the technology level, some of the road bumps in the way. How do you consume and switch to a consumption economic model, and all of the bumps in the road around metering and knowing what you're going to pay for, and forecasting and planning is an important part. I also think the point you made about data and getting data to the right level. I mean, we always thought about data as a third-class citizen, as a byproduct, as a collateral that came on the back of automation. Data is now a first-class citizen for most companies that we speak with. And that requires a different way of thinking about it and getting it in a shape and a place that it can actually take advantage of the compute engines that we now have on the back of cloud. And I think those technical components are top of mind for many of us. I also think there is another road bumps the wrong word, but another critical success factor that we need to get right. And I think it's a little higher level, because to your point about it's not an IT solution, it's a business solution. I think that most companies, certainly all large corporations that I speak with boards, with CXOs, the biggest challenge on the table is that you actually need three muscles to get the business transformation right. Not the cloud transformation, but the business transformation. You need obviously the technology, the digital components, the talent to be able to get your cloud rigged up the right way so you can take advantage of all of these composable services and put them to use. But I think the second muscle that is becoming really important is the muscle of understanding the domain, the nuances of the industry, the process understanding, and designing what the future state needs to look like before you start implementing it. And if you don't get that right, you really can't train the data, you can't label the data, you can't get the insights, contextualize in the right way. You can't even program the workflow, because that all requires an understanding of that future state of how you want it to be and what the process nuances are. We also think there's a third thing that is increasingly becoming very apparent, and I see many, many companies sort of working their way through it. And that is, look, to drive business transformation, you have to think through almost four different asset classes. So you've got all of the stuff around technology, which we just spoke of, but you have people, you have process, and you have data. And the systematic execution, the programmatic management, the synchronized coordination of change across each of those four dimensions is almost critical to harvesting the benefits of cloud and digital overall, because it's not about just rigging up a new stack. It's about how you use it, how you change your business processes, how do you deploy the data that you have to better use, and then how do you get your processes changed to the future state you want it to be in. One of the things I found really important is just reflecting on those three muscles, and as a company, as an organization, being thoughtful about how you orchestrate that properly. So that's probably the one thing I would add to that, which actually brings me to one other topic I know is on the minds of many of my peers, and I'd love to get your perspective on this, which is talent, right? This is new, this is different. It requires a mindset that's new. How do you think about talent in the age of the cloud?
Well, I think that there's two things to speak about here. One is there's a tremendous need for organizations to invest more deeply in their own talent, to be able to get them ready and to be able to both move and live on the cloud or in the cloud, as I said before. And I think the other aspect of talent that's very important is mixing the business and technology talent, mixing the domain experience and the process experience together. I think that how organizations manage their talent around this will be a critical issue. We see from many of the providers in the market a significant investment in their human resources to be able to do this. A lot of organizations, especially IT organizations, over the last decade or so, have been under extreme cost pressure to cut. And when you disinvest in some of these areas that are important, it's a risk for organizations. And I think it's something where obviously providers like yourself can help, but it's also something where they need to make those investments, and they need to be able to understand that to transform the business and live in this new environment, they will need to do that.
I think that's right. And if I could add to that, Gard, I spent a lot of time with my peers in the industry, and they're all technologists like me. They're all born and brought up in the tech age. And one of the topics we spent a lot of time discussing is, listen, technology is no longer the business of IT. It is a shared responsibility of a few and needs to become many in a corporation. And really the point is, this is a shared responsibility that belongs across business lines. And the way we think about infusing technology to power up the backplane to deliver the new experience that our clients will want, such that we have a sticky business experience that'll persevere through, obviously not just the current economic crisis, but over time, is the most important part of this. And that requires a different mindset. That requires not only clearly on the technology side, there's new tech and new capabilities and new ways of approaching old problems, right? And I think that's an evolution of itself. But to your point about sort of, broadening that spectrum and thinking about the business side, and really sort of this getting people up to speed to be able to embrace, endorse, engage, and actually make the technology the business of everyone in the company is so important. We use a word, I use it a lot, and the word is bilingual. So the idea is the world needs more bilinguals. They don't need, we don't need more Shakespeare and prose scholars. We need people that understand English and French and then can make the connection. And similarly in business, we look for people that understand financial analysis and machine learning. We look for people that do, computer vision and manufacturing. We're looking for people that do natural language processing and thinking about regulatory compliance in pharmaceutical industries and so forth. And so I think that point is really made.
Yeah.
So listen, I want to spend more time with you, and I know our audiences globally would love to do that, and hopefully we'll get a chance to spend some more time on this together. But if you had to leave us with 1, 2, 3, I mean, if I'm embracing cloud and I'm getting on a cloud journey, here are the 3 things you got to get right, Sanjay. 1, 2, 3. Leave us with sort of a final thought on that.
So I'd say make sure that it's a business first approach. Make sure that you bring your people along in terms of training and educating them to live on the cloud, and always invest in your people, in their ability to drive the kind of innovation that is going to actually make a difference for you in a transformation, because many of the cloud services are somewhat commoditized. You're not going to differentiate your business based on cloud storage. You're going to differentiate it based on all of the things that you can put on top of that.
I love that. So if I got it right, business first, invest in people, and then index on innovation. Don't just try and catch up, try and get ahead and seize the opportunity. Love it. Gard, thank you for spending the time. Always insightful discussions, and we look forward to having more of these.
You're welcome, Sanjay. Nice to talk to you. Bye now.
Goodbye.